Welcome back to the AI Wave podcast. I'm your host, Chris Parisi, and today we have an episode that is going to dive into travel insurance. Yes, Bradley Adams. He is an entrepreneur. He's a Bryant University alum. He's also a podcast host for the Paper Trail podcast. He co-founded Aerogami, which is focused on bringing technology to the insurance industry, and they're launching a brand new AI tool this year. So in this episode, we'll dive into what it's like to be an entrepreneur, why Providence in Rhode Island is the best place to start your new business, and what it's like to launch AI into your existing technology when it comes to how can we enhance customer experience. It's a great episode. Bradley is a joy to talk to. You're going to enjoy it. Thank you for tuning in. Let's get to it and ride this AI wave. We are here with Bradley Adams. Bradley, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me on the show, Chris.
So Bradley is the co-founder of Aerogami, a man of many talents and really involved in the startup scene here in Rhode Island. Bradley, but we've known each other for several years now through our connection with Founders and Friends and seeing each other in these communities. But tell me more about yourself. I don't even know where you were born.
What, Chris?
Yeah.
Come on.
Was it Connecticut?
No, it was Vermont, actually.
Okay.
So that's a good sneaky fun fact for me going forward.
There you go.
Where was I really born? But no, born in Burlington, Vermont. Moved to Connecticut when I was a kid.
Okay.
Did most of my growing up there, and then went to school here in Rhode Island at both our alma maters, Bryant University. And after that, just fell in love with the state, fell in love with Providence, and decided to stick around.
It's music to my heart.
Yeah, not many young people can say that.
Well, I mean, that's one of the organizations I'm on is Millennial Rhode Island, and our hashtag is Choose RI. Yeah. Because at the time when it started, when we were younger, had less gray hair, we had the third highest rate Rhode Island did of those that get educated in the state that leave the state. So we are very excited when we have talented folks like you, like our friend Nick Championi, also from Bryant, like talented folks that are not from Rhode Island, get educated here and stay in the state. So on behalf of Rhode Island, thank you, Bradley, for staying here and starting your company here as well.
Absolutely. Well, it's been such a great home, Chris. I always joke when I'm out meeting with clients. Right now, we do a lot of work in the insurance space and specifically travel insurance. So we're meeting people all over the world sometimes. You know, we'll be in London. Well, recently our group was just in Lisbon. And I always joke with them, I'm like, I'm in Providence, Rhode Island. And I'm like, if you don't know us, we're the best kept secret between New York and Boston. And everyone's like, oh, tell me more about what's going on there. So it's really just gives me a chance to talk about all the great work that I think Providence and the greater state of Rhode Island is doing to really encourage innovation and encourage people to stay here to build some really cool solutions.
And this all started with your education at Bryant University.
Yes, it did.
You got a concentration in entrepreneurship?
I got a few. So I actually finished with 3 concentrations. 3?
Graduate. Most people do 1, Bradley.
Call me an overachiever, I guess. But I did analytics, entrepreneurship, and finance.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Which one did you feel was most related to your passions?
Definitely entrepreneurship. I think that was a big piece of it. And maybe I got a little lucky with the way the curriculum was set up at Bryant at the time, because entrepreneurship didn't really have many specialty major classes at the time. They had a few maybe senior courses or even a few courses as junior, but a lot of my schedule was filled with electives. And so kind of thinking ahead, I said, if I'm going to pay for the education, I might as well get into something that's worthwhile. So the way I think about it is entrepreneurship really helped me build my problem-solving mindset and the way to navigate maybe uncertain terms. But then finance and analytics were kind of the specialties. It was how can I learn some practical pieces of businesses that actually I could bring into my toolkit and ultimately make me a more effective founder or worker in general.
And that's amazing because you are applying, no pun intended, all 3 of those skills in what you're doing currently, right?
Absolutely. Well, I leave the coding to the experts. The best I got out of analytics was some database stuff. But I do think it gave me a technical perspective, which I found really helpful, especially when you're getting into product conversations and you're trying to build a roadmap with the team and assess priorities of what different projects are. And it just all adds to the context of what can we do to bring a really great solution to market. And if nothing else, it just shows you more of what you don't know. So it kind of puts you in this curious mindset all the time where you're like, hey, maybe I know a little bit about this, but what else do you know, or what else does this partner or specialist that we're bringing on board that can really help us continue to build a better solution?
So when you graduated, Brian, you probably had a choice. Hey, do I stay here? Do I explore new opportunities? Do I found my own business?
Yeah.
What drove you to the decision to make, and what was that first path? Because that first path is not the current path, I assume.
No, it wasn't. So I think the one, I'll say, weakness or lack of real technical training I had was in sales. And so I knew out the gate when I graduated from Bryant that the first business I was going to work for was going to be an early stage company. Because at that point I'd already worked for a couple of founders and I had an opportunity to experience what it was like to be an early stage employee. But I really wanted to work for someone who kind of had done it before and was doing it again and needed help kind of getting and taking that first step. So the first company I got involved with was an early stage company based out of Wellesley, Massachusetts at the time. And they connected with me because at the time they were building a contact card product. So just making it easy to save phone numbers and emails and all the important stuff you need to contact someone in your device. And what was interesting about their angle, though, is they were actually focusing on universities. So I was an orientation leader and really involved on campus. So I'd seen firsthand kind of what the university had put together for resources and what actually made it to students. And I knew there was a disconnect there. And of course, these are really important resources. They're the things that save students in a crisis. They're the things they need to reference if they go through some type of trauma. And so I was very eager to join on their mission and say, hey, let's make sure that all these great resources universities are putting together are actually ending up on students' phones. And that was a really great experience because, again, it was, the office was probably smaller than this room for all 8 employees. And so you're on the phone, you're making those 40 dials a day, you're sending out those 100 emails, you're trying to get anyone to talk to you. And that experience was invaluable for me as an early professional because now I really knew the grind. I really knew what it meant to talk to someone, communicate, try to express value as soon as possible. And those are all really excellent skills to add to my toolkit.
That's a great point because sometimes the best skills that you develop are the skills that are a little difficult to do, right? It's not always easy to make those phone calls and get rejected. You probably got rejected a lot. Oh
my God, I still will never forget. There was a university in North Dakota. We had only a few customers at the time, maybe like 20, 30 universities. One of the big ones happened to be University of Washington. So my region was the Northwest United States. And so I made a joke that I'm like, oh, we're working with your neighbor, University of Washington. She roasted me on the phone. She's like, I'm in North Dakota. Do you know how many miles is between my campus and University of Washington? Call me when you're working with someone closer. And I remember like getting on that, and then you're sitting there for a second. I had the technical director right behind me. He's like, that sounded tough. And I was like, yeah. He's like, best way to make it go away is call another. So next thing you know, I'm back on the phone doing it again. So yeah, it was a really, really great experience because it just taught me by fire, right? Forged by fire. And I thought that was exactly what I was looking for. If I look back, maybe I would have maybe not done it because of how hard it was, but it was such an excellent experience to put me in the position today as a founder and say, hey, you know what? I don't care if a carrier says no to our solution today. There might be a day where they say yes. And so every time I'm getting a no, it's more information, it's more feedback, it's a better way for me to focus my pitch, understand what value I'm bringing for them, and maybe even understand where they're coming from. Maybe they're not in a buying cycle that makes sense for our product right now. Maybe they're really invested in other projects so they can't really bring on something new like us. So again, it just puts you again in this mindset where you're constantly looking for ways to get better. And that's really, I think, the biggest job of a founder.
With education, going back to Brian, you could take all the sales courses. I remember I used to take some sales courses. Shout out to Professor Stephanie Boyer. But nothing can teach you the way real world experience does, right? Like if you're a college student out there, internships and entry-level jobs is what you're going to learn from more than the books they teach you, right? Although we learned a lot from the great Bryant University,
absolutely,
that real-world experience really molded you, I bet, to allow you to take that next step. Because going from where you were to then deciding, I'm going to found my own business and start my own business, that's quite a leap.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's not that bad. Yeah, but I mean,
you need to be a certain type of person to even say something like that,
yeah.
right? Like, it's not for everybody, and
No, definitely not.
you have to be able to grind, to take rejection, to sacrifice, and what made you decide that, you know what, I want to do it myself?
Yeah, well, I think it was always on the roadmap for me, Chris.
Okay.
Like, I remember even having one of the first lunches I had with that technical founder. Shout out to Douglas Crystal, currently CTO of True Video. But I remember sitting with him at lunch at the pizza place right around the corner from us, and he was just very honest with me, like, what's on your roadmap? What are you looking to do? How does this fit into your plan? And I told him, I was like, I want to run one of these things. Like, I want to be the guy and be in the seat and make these decisions. And I was just so obsessed and continue to be with that process of, you and me chatting here about an idea and being able to have the skills and the toolkit to be able to say, all right, cool, a lot of people could benefit from having this idea reach market. Let's go ahead and do it. And being able to confidently take that step. And so when the opportunity kind of came up, because it was 2020 when we founded Aerogami, but it was actually kind of through the ashes of the old company that we started a new one. Because what happened was those founders were working on a new product at the time, but they were mainly based in travel and higher education still. And so when 2020 came around and we're all affected by COVID-19 and you have these massive closures happening, it was still not a sustainable business at that point. They were still investing money to keep it going, and they really hadn't had the hit that growth curve yet where they're able to sustainably fund the business. And so like many business owners at the time, they said, hey, this is way too risky for us. We don't want to lose any more money, and rightfully so. The market became exponentially more risky than it was before. But at the time, they were working on a new product that myself and my now co-founder kind of saw an opportunity for, because it solved all the different, setbacks or problems that our customers had with our existing product. And so we kind of asked the question, like, well, what are you guys going to do with this? Oh, it's just going to go on our shelf, and maybe one day someone comes back and does something with it. So her and I looked at each other and said, well, we would like to make a deal and see if we can start our own thing with it. And so lucky enough, we had the support from the founders. We made a deal to buy the IP, start Aerogami in 2020. And we just hit the ground running with our little black book and said, hey, we know why you liked the old product. We have something new with a new company. What do you think about joining us over here? And we were lucky enough to have a few kind of early customers join us. And we kind of just used that to fuel the growth for the rest of it. So very fortunate, but I do not recommend it. Again, a lot of uncertainty, a lot of hard nights. And I think you get it as a business owner, when you also have the responsibility of making sure your co-founder, your employees can have a paycheck that they can bring home.
Oh, yeah.
It just completely changes the way you think about things. And that was probably the hardest lesson for me to learn, because it's not just about you chasing, your dreams anymore. There's real responsibilities that you have to people you care about, and you got to do that.
It's tough, especially as your business matures, your employees mature. And with that becomes now your employees have families.
Yeah.
And now you're responsible for the success of their families. So it's quite the responsibility being a business owner, a small business, a founder, because it is more than just about you. And on a related topic, you decided, I'm not going to just be a sole founder. I'm going to have a co-founder.
Absolutely.
Tell me a little bit about your thought process behind that.
Well, I'm a big believer that I think one of our superpowers as a species is our ability to collaborate and work with each other. And I'm definitely not good at everything. I'm that's bona fide. Like I am not an expert. I'm maybe decent at the things I'm okay at, but there's no way I have the skill set to cover every part of what our business needs. And so it was almost a no-brainer to have my co-founder, Ali Bazuda, join me. We had worked together previously on projects. We had been at the old company together. And by the end, it was really her and I who were kind of keeping a lot of things together. So we already had that working relationship. We kind of knew each other's strengths. And I always joke, because I'm like the fun, friendly brand and sales and, product guy, but she's like the killer operations person, where it's like,
yeah, you complement each other really well.
Absolutely. It's like, she give her that list, give her what needs to be done. And she's turned, and sometimes it works against me, because she's like, Bradley, you owe these things. Like, you need to get these things done. But it's perfect because it lets us focus on our own lanes and really kind of work on what we're best at.
That's smart, right? You know, it's important to understand what you're great at and what you're not great at. I would also say you're selling yourself short. You are great at a lot of things, but not great at everything, like myself, like most of us, right? So knowing where our strengths and weaknesses are is to complement that with a co-founder. I mean, and Allie's great. So to do that, hats off to the both of you for taking that leap with Aerogami. And now you guys, it's 2024. You made the 4-year mark pretty much, right?
Crazy.
Which is really difficult with startups. So congratulations to the two of you, but it feels like it's just begun, right? Like you guys are still taking off and you're still growing, and you just said how much you were traveling, right?
Yeah.
It's no longer you're just in the Venture Cafe in Providence. You're in Lisbon, you're in London. Yeah. Tell me what it's like of taking that next step from a startup, early startup, to like now I'm into that next scale up level of 4 years.
Yeah, well, it's kind of interesting, Chris, because I think in many ways this will probably be our most exciting year to date. And I think a lot of that is kind of to what you just talked about. It's that evolution, right? When you're a founder and you have that first product, you're going out and you're testing it, right? You're getting constant feedback. You're trying to sell the vision of what you know it can be, but certainly what it can't do today, right? And so I think that for the first 4 years of our journey, it was really just about developing that product over and over again with a lot of the feedback from our first few clients, but also in every pitch that we were going for. You know, we would get feedback in a meeting and they would say, oh, I wish I could do this, or hey, have you guys thought about this part of the problem? And that was all really stuff we could use to continue to innovate and build. And now now we're talking with top tier companies. We're talking with Fortune 100s. We're talking with companies who are dealing with tens of millions of travelers that we're not going to be responsible for their policy document experience. So now it's like, all right, guys, if before was just like, you know, a couple of us around a whiteboard talking about what this could be, it's now time for scale. It's time for us to build in legitimacy. So we're representing a big brand. We have, you know, our performance is top tier, right? Like, again, there's no time for messing around anymore. People are going to be relying on us and be paying us to do that. We really got to make sure we nailed it. So yeah, it's difficult.
In a way, millions of people would be relying on you.
Millions.
No pressure, Bradley.
No, not at all. Make it just another day in the office.
You said 2024 is going to be your biggest year yet for Aerogami. Does that also mean that there's any new products coming around? This is the AI Wave podcast. How about AI? We
wouldn't be doing a good job if we didn't talk about AI a little bit, Chris.
I know, right?
Yeah, no, we definitely have, we're doing an AI product right now.
Okay.
So it's really interesting. And just to give your viewers here a little bit of what we're doing. So Aerogami has a platform that essentially takes any PDF document and gives it the features and functions of a traditional mobile app. But with one big caveat: you never have to visit an app store to download our technology. So we're providing the true mobile convenience that users are looking for without any of the hurdles that prevent engagement. And so that was a big first kind of part of our platform and our push when we're talking to insurance carriers. But now what we're doing is, because we have the traveler or the policyholder engaged, we can start using our platform to power some of the operational pieces for our carriers. So things like claims processes, things like access to partner services.
Okay.
And one of the big parts in insurance right now, and I don't know if you've taken a look at your insurance policies recently, Chris, but they're kind of confusing, right?
Yeah.
They're a legal document first, they're a service document second. And it's so crazy because all of the information you need to contact your carrier or the people who service your policy is in your policy document. But you'll never find that if you never look at it. And you'll never look at it and understand your policy. So therefore, you're calling your carrier with all types of things that might be relevant for your policy, might not. You know, it might be something they can help with, or in some cases, it might be something that's powered by a partner of theirs. So they have no insights to how a partner might handle that part of your experience. And so going back to the AI piece, one of the things that our customers are really interested in is how can we use the policy experience as an opportunity to educate travelers. We do a lot of work with travel insurance, so I'll use them as an example. But how can we educate travelers on the benefits of having travel insurance on their trips and maybe some of the services that are included as a part of that? So we're using AI to essentially serve as like an inside agent in your policy. So right within your document experience, you have a tool that can help you find particular parts of your policy that you might have questions on, or maybe a specific situation that you think you might be covered for, and ultimately help you find those things and explain them in a way so that way you actually feel confident in what you purchased and the coverage that you have, instead of confused in, hey, do I call them? Do I not? Is this something that I could actually use?
So like a chatbot experience?
Yeah, exactly. I almost compare it to, do you remember Microsoft Word had Clippy,
Yeah,
where they would do the tutorials and say,
Yeah.
hey, hit F5 if you want shortcuts.
Yeah.
So we're envisioning a tool like that in our document where you can kind of point to the parts of the policy, help them find things. But if someone has a question or wants to find a particular resource, Clippy, we're going to call him Charlie, but
Are you really?
Yeah, Charlie.
Nice.
Yeah. Our mascot or our pilot representative is called Charlie Ride, so we're going to call our AI Charlie.
I love it.
Yeah.
IE or just I at the end?
IE.
Okay. So it's like a chat. So right now, let's say I'm traveling, okay, and I have insurance, no clue what it covers,
Absolutely.
and I can't even access it because I don't have Wi-Fi.
Yep.
I could still access these documents without even internet?
Yeah, absolutely. We just give a QR code and a link right in your confirmation. So after you purchase that travel insurance, you scan it, you click it, you do a little security verification to make sure it's you accessing the document. And once you do that, you have DigiDoc right on your phone, save it right onto the home screen, just like the rest of your apps live. And once you do that, we actually save the file to your phone. So you own that data now. So if you're offline, if you're in a sketchy connection zone, you'll be able to have that document still on your device and be able to know, hey, this is my policy number, these are the phone numbers or reference points I need if I have a claim. But in many cases, even if you are in a great connection zone or you do have some type of wireless connection, there's a lot of things that could happen on your trip that you might not realize your travel insurance can help you with. So like, for example, there's a partner of ours we're working with called Blink Parametric. They're based out of the UK. And what they do is essentially if you have like a luggage loss or, some type of luggage delay, they can actually automatically, almost in real time, send you some type of fixed amount to cover anything that you might have to purchase because you don't have your luggage. So you're going to a big hotshot international conference in London and you brought your best suit and it gets lost and you're like, shoot, I need $500 to go get, my new suit from Brook Brothers or something that could, fill in. Great. Just send them your tag. They'll say, yep, we confirmed that it's delayed and lost. Here's your $500 in your bank account. And all that's done in real time.
Oh, wow.
So you might not know you have that benefit because it's either lost in your policy document experience. Maybe if you have a really great credit card, I know we were talking about this offline before, but some credit cards actually come with a travel insurance embedded. So you might actually have a product like that through a credit card company, but you would never know because, again, where do they tell you that experience? Where do they say, oh, Chris, we noticed that you booked international travel. By the way, you have a travel insurance package included in our card services.
Oh. And how is... That sounds great, by the way. Like, I want that.
Yeah, most travelers do.
I want that. And I do want this AI. I want Charlie as well. Yeah. Because going through, like, having access to all these documents is great, but there are a lot of documents.
There are.
So if I could have some type of chat bot that is it tailored to that specific individual and what their policy is and what they have and don't have?
Yep. So the way we're building the product is essentially to be reactive to whatever the product is in front of our user. So essentially, we have a little menu icon in the bottom right of our experience. We'll have our little Charlie button in there. They can click it. In that moment, Charlie will scan through the document they have. We'll partner with a large language model company or something that can help feed us more of that data. And then once we do that scan, great, we know exactly what policy they purchased. We know exactly the benefits included. Great, now we can start making recommendations to that user. Or I shouldn't say recommendations because the underwriters would hate me, but we can make and point the traveler to the parts of their policy where those things are referenced. So that way, if they're looking for baggage claim, right now, if you do a control find for baggage in a policy, you might get 100 different examples because baggage is listed in a number of different parts of your policy. But we know that you're looking specifically for your baggage claim or your baggage loss or the things specific to losing luggage. So we'll just pinpoint that section of the document instead making it easier for you to actually.
How does the AI know that though? Like, is it just the way you prompted it? Is it the way that you've set up parameters?
Well, it's one of the things I think you've talked about on the show before, Chris. It's using humans and AI to set up the best experience. And so what we'll do initially is we'll work with our AI agent where we'll run it through documents that we produced already before we bring it to market. And we'll start actually plugging away at what sections that we actually wanted to reference on some of those searches. And what's great about insurance is a lot of the documents have similar formatting. So we'll be able to use that data across different carriers or product types so we can better identify, okay, this is where these sections usually live, and give the AI the chance to best reference whatever kind of section.
Yeah, because RAG solutions are now is a little more difficult than we're building some ourselves. And but yeah, like even building our own RAG solution, there's a lot of difficulties that comes with it. So I'm sure setting up the parameters, kind of fine-tuning it as well. And will you have some type of feedback loop mechanism so that...
Absolutely. Well, we already have an analytics dashboard for our platform, so we can monitor all the activity that happens on each document. So what we'll do is we'll use that in tandem with our AI agent, so we can actually say, hey, is this the thing that we really wanted them to reference? Is this the activity we are really looking to encourage through this type of suggestion? So we'll be able to really get down to how our inputs are actually affecting outputs. And the goal, and I think where I get really excited about our product, is we can use that now to almost not influence user behavior, but really make it a truly educational experience, right? And we can really look at this as an opportunity to say, all right, how are we training users to look at their policies and understand what they're covered in? And how are we designing that experience to make sure that we're getting the best outcomes for our travelers? So all very exciting things.
What I love about it is that we're utilizing AI to enhance customer experience as well as your customer's customer experience without replacing anyone, right?
No.
You're just literally enhancing experiences and providing your customer now is providing more value to their customers.
Absolutely.
And for as a traveler, I mean, that sounds amazing. You could literally be saving lives in a way through travel insurance. I know we can't say anything like that technically, right? Or something like that.
No.
But you can be enhancing their lives when they're traveling.
We could be getting more people the resources they have access to in a point of crisis. And that was, going back to even my first startup experience really outside of college. I mean, that's so much of what drives me personally and our team. It's just, there's so much effort. Like, you would be blown away, Chris. Like, I was just in DC doing a travel insurance conference and was meeting with all the US carriers who are responsible for building these products.
Oh, wow.
And you'd be blown away at how much effort their teams go through putting together these products for people. And what's crazy to me is that there's so much effort done on the back end, the operations, the assistance, all the things. So when you hit that phone number, you have a well-oiled machine answering on the other side. And the last part they get wrong is how they present that information to the traveler. It's like the final point when the rubber meets the road and we truly have our first test on how good this product is. And that's really what our team is solving, is making sure that that first experience that traveler has and that first look they have at what they have access to is going to be something that's familiar, welcoming, and ultimately engaging, so they actually use those resources.
Wonderful. And how do you use AI outside this product that you're building? Do you use it personally, professionally?
Yeah, I mean, ChatGPT has been great for answering family text messages. When you're trying to dance between family plans. No, I'm just kidding. But no,
no one's actually texting Bradley. It's just AI Bradley.
Yeah, it's actually my best friend right now.
That's why we get the green.
Yeah. So, but no, I think it's been great from a content perspective. We're still a small, nimble team. I handle a lot of our content creation for all our channels when it comes to social media or blog posts, articles we write. So in terms of getting baseline information out there, or when we're structuring ideas of how our product fits into this larger model of insurance, I mean, ChatGPT has been a godsend because it can just go through really great summary points very quickly, and it just saves me a whole bunch of time from having to type out a lot of the same ideas myself. So I think that's probably the biggest use case we have for it right now in my personal life. But I'm sure there's still probably a million ways it's going to affect me one day. I'm waiting for the day that we get a really good AI calendar robot, because that would be so cool. I have yet to find a really good calendar tool that can recommend the right times that when I want to schedule meetings in my day, and just can kind of put it in an email and send it. So that way I'm not having to like type out the same 24 availabilities all the time.
Why don't you just send them a link?
I mean, I could, but the thing is when you have those open periods in your calendar, it kind of just creates like a free almost selection. And it's like there's certain parts of my day I like to structure for particular types of work. So then I have to like almost cheat the calendar into thinking I'm doing things or I'm busy in other meetings, just so like I know that my meetings are going to be from like 10:30 to 2 o'clock, and the rest of the day I can have split out for the other things. So, but then my team hates me because then they look at my calendar, it's all blocked off with these things, which, you know, I guess they could always send me a Slack message, but I don't like the look of that in my calendar over, because then I'm like, oh, I got to jump to this, I got to jump to that. You know, so I'm waiting for a day that we can get a really cool AI calendar tool out the door, and I'm sure we're not too far behind.
Sure, we're not too far behind from a lot of things with AI, and we could be talking about that for a while. But one thing that intrigues me is you said you utilize AI for content creation. One of the newest things I saw that you're doing when it comes to content is a podcast.
Oh, yeah.
So tell us a little bit more about your podcast. You've already a few episodes in.
Yeah. We've done 3 episodes so far. It's been exciting. I have to give you a lot of credit, Chris, because running a podcast I thought it'd be a lot easier than it was. But no, it's been really a great great tool for us to promote and talk about a lot of these ideas that we're talking about in our team internally, but really getting them out there with insurance and our insurance professionals. And that's really the point of our show, is how can we talk about insurance innovation and kind of get an inside look at how some of these bigger players are approaching innovation within their own teams. So it's been really cool because I've gotten to meet already a few really knowledgeable guests who are in the seat. They're the ones who are defining the culture in their organization. They're the ones who are defining the priorities and trying to build better products for travel insurance and for other insurance products. So it's kind of also given me some also educational value to really understand what they're going through and kind of some of the fights they're up against internally to get some of these solutions to market. And
it's the Paper Trail podcast?
The Paper Trail podcast.
All right, so you have to check out the Paper Trail podcast.
Sensing a paper theme with our branding.
Exactly. If you go to, is it Aerogami?
Aerogami.co.
Yep. There's also a paper theme there as well, even when it comes to the logo icons.
Yeah, and our website's really cool.
Yes.
Thanks to Trailblaze Marketing.
That's right. Trailblaze, Paper Trail. Look at that. You know, it's a good match there. Podcasts, they're not easy to maintain. Fortunately, we have a great producer here with Jack, and we have some great guests like you, and we have a great audience. I mean, thank you for listening and tuning in, and we love when we get interaction. So always comment and share and everything you can to keep this going. You know, seeing all of that is what fuels me, and having these conversations is incredibly valuable. I've been learning so much from those on that side of the table. So hats off to you on starting that podcast, 3 episodes in, and I'm sure you're going to continue them and keep it rolling.
Absolutely. We got quite a roadmap planned. So I'm just hoping that it's offering some value for our audience, and again, just showing a different lens. You know, I think when people think of insurance, they think of dull, dodgy, slow to innovate, and in some ways they're right, but there's also a lot of really exciting, developments that are happening in insurance right now. And so it's such an exciting place to be as a young person and an innovator, particularly with now only a little bit of insurance knowledge. But it's one of the things I always try to promote even here in Providence, because it's such a great opportunity for young people to get exposure to a very well-established industry and something that's also a little bit recession-proof in many ways. So it's a great career path, but also just an exciting place to be right now.
That's a really good point. It is pretty, I mean, nothing's true recession-proof, I guess, in a way, but, insurance is one of things. So, we talk about here in Providence, we've been connected a lot through the startup community. One thing that we're a part of is Founders and Friends. We have new events coming up. I'm looking forward to see you there. What can you tell our audience about the startup community in Providence, and kind of tying back to the beginning of our conversation of why you chose to remain here when you kind of could have went anywhere? Yeah,
I mean, I think that's the $1 million question, Chris, really, because as founders, I think biggest ways you get your support and you keep battling through the hard days is through community. And here in Rhode Island, I think the community that, people like yourself have helped build is just tremendous. Allie is actually based in Boston, and Boston's a huge network and a huge city when it comes to startups and, venture capital. And, it's a place to be, certainly.
Yep.
But if you're a small fish like us, we started 2020 and, we barely had any revenue coming in the door. We didn't have any funding. So we get swallowed up in a place like Boston because at that point, you're just one of the many pitch deck companies that are trying to get something off the ground. But here in Rhode Island, you feel like there's actually a community that's fighting with you. You go and talk to other founders. You have the support from the government and from, other community-based organizations like Venture Cafe or the CIC, even Innovation Studio. All of them are doing such excellent work at the ground floor, which is where we need it most, right? We don't need to be promoting another Series A $100 million raise. Like, those guys got the resources.
Right.
What we need to do is help the founders who are maybe have a great idea. They've really dialed into a very specific market because they either have a diverse background, they come from a particular space, and they just need help getting the thing started. And I think that's where Providence and Rhode Island in general really shines the most, because every entrepreneur I talk to has had nothing but a warm reception of, bring your idea here. Hey, I'm happy to connect you with so-and-so, or this lawyer I know that help you talk through terms, or there's investors who are really aggressive about funding early stage companies. So all those things add to, I'll say, this attitude of welcome, not prove yourself. And I think that's probably the most defining characteristic of what kept us in Rhode Island.
Well said. Well, we're glad that you stayed here. If you've watched this episode of this podcast before, you've known I've said this a lot, which is I believe Rhode Island can be the leader in this new AI-driven economy. We have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity in front of us where we can make Rhode Island not that little unknown secret between New York and Boston, as you said, but become an AI powerhouse, right? We have a lot of the infrastructure. We have a lot of the talent. We have the backing from the state, right? We created the AI task force. We're on our way. We can be that number one leading state in this AI-driven economy because of the reasons you said as well. And that's what really excites me and drives me. And conversations like this, friendships and communities that we're a part of, like you mentioned, is really what makes this time of our lives exciting and why we work hard, because we don't want to have a regret where, there was this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, but screw it, I'd rather go play video games or something. No, we're going to grind, we're going to collaborate, we're going to watch episodes and podcasts like this and really build connections. And that's what we do, and I have very, very bullish on the future of Rhode Island here.
I'm right there with you, Chris, because if I've learned anything from my time as an early stage founder, it pays to be nimble. And I think one thing that's really going for Rhode Island and Providence in general is the fact that they're reacting in a way that's quicker than what much larger states or much larger communities can. And again, there's a concern I always have with the AI piece, because a lot of people say, oh, humans are adaptable, which we are, and we'll find new ways to use it, which we will. But if the modern infrastructure of corporate governance is any indicator of how all the resources that AI can produce will be managed, then I'm concerned that maybe a few key big players will get the lion's share and ultimately leave the rest out the door. And I think with Rhode Island, you can sense that community here, that people want to do right by the people who are here. And they don't want to just take away jobs, but find better ways of doing your existing jobs. So not that you're replaced, but that ultimately you're supported. And I think that's really going to be the difference between us building this technology to be something that's truly helpful and revolutionary versus something that's going to lead more towards name any one of your favorite dystopian movies that we could reference here.
Exactly. Well, this has been a great conversation. If you had one final advice to the young entrepreneurs out there, to those that are seasoned vets but are looking to figure out a way of how to choose their own path and take that chance, what would be that piece of advice?
Just get started.
Love it.
There's no other way to learn. There's no other way to figure out what you don't know. than just to get out there and do it, right? Even doesn't matter how rough it is, doesn't matter how much work it needs. Every person you talk to, every exposure you have of that idea, of your company, of your business, is just another opportunity for it to get better. So just get started. Just go do it.
I love it. Well, great job, Bradley. I mean, let our audience know. They're probably like, this dude's amazing. I want to get to know him a little bit more. What is the best way for them to reach out to you?
Yeah, I'd say follow me on LinkedIn. That's probably my most visited platform for myself. So if you want help, if you want to test that idea, test that pitch, by all means. I love supporting other entrepreneurs in the community or the people who want to get started. So drop me a note there, or visit our company page and reach out.
Sounds great. Well, thanks for joining us, and I'll see you soon at the next Founders and Friends event.
Sounds good, Chris. Thanks for having me.
All right, thank you.